Ready when you are. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Colazzo, Executive Director of the Fishtown, Kensington Area Business Improvement District. We want to welcome both me and my executive staff, Kay Anderson, Director of Operations, and Randy Sherwood, Marketing Director and Office Manager. I want to direct you to yet another one of our virtual seminars. Our goal throughout the pandemic, and even really before that, is to bring resources, people, ideas, information to all of you to get you through what has been obviously a very, very difficult several months, and certainly in light of the new restrictions coming out starting in a couple hours. It's even more of, I think, of a requirement for us as a staff and us as an organization to ensure that you have every ability to find out what avenues there are to receive capital. As many of you know, because I've worked with several of you on different applications, we're sort of at a point now where we're waiting to see what may be coming down the pike as far as stimulus money, grant money. So I think for us, it's important. We have wonderful partners right to our neighbors right on Allegheny Avenue of Impact Services. Today we're being joined by Paul Marcus and Jimmy Duran of the Impact Loan Fund. So good afternoon, gentlemen. And our goal today is to talk about different avenues for your business to receive capital, whether it's to maintain operations, whether to expand operations. We're very fortunate, even during these times. If you go through our corridor, you see an awful lot of building being done, businesses being open, spaces being enhanced and improved. In fact, Kay and I found out the other day that just this year alone, through the city's storefront improvement program, we were able to help bring in over $60,000 worth of city funding to help improve facades. So it's gratifying to us to see that work being done. But this is also for all of you that are looking to maybe whether increase your business, enhance the size, or start something new. We want to make sure you have all the information that you can. Our corridor is such a dynamic, unique commercial entity that is just so far different than really any of the other commercial corridors throughout our city. There are 18 business improvement districts, and they all have their different rhythms and personality. Ours is known really, I think, for entrepreneurship, for creativity. All of you have invested your time, your talent, your treasure into making this place what it is, which is really an international destination. And even during COVID, we just were fortunate enough to have a wonderful event on Saturday, and it was a beautiful day, and this corridor was packed with people sitting outside eating, visiting our various retail shops. We have professional services here. And our goal really as the year comes, and we're fortunate that we've had businesses continue to open during the pandemic and plans for 2021, is to try to focus on the things also that we don't have on our corridor, to bring more retail shopping to go with the many eateries that we have and that are coming, but also the professional services, the real estate services. And luckily, there are outlets for you to get this type of funding. So having said all that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul and Jimmy. They do great work over at Impact. I was fortunate prior to coming here in my days working in the House of Representatives to work with Impact Services for many years. And they do wonderful work in job training, job creation, and also in economic help. And I know that's why they started this loan fund. And what better to be able to try to work with a partner that's right in our neighborhood. So Paul and Jimmy, thanks for all you do. And I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity, Mark. And I think, Impact Loan Fund, is based sort of a little bit north of where you all are, but trying to build relationships across, somewhat, generic boundaries like Lehigh Avenue, and trying to find ways to provide support, throughout neighborhoods in the lower Northeast. We're Impact Loan Fund's been around for about 20 years. and I've been working as the director for the past 3 years. And so as we've sort of, as I've been involved with the loan fund, part of what we've been trying to do is, one, deploy capital we had, because it doesn't do any good sitting in our bank account and not being in the hands of business owners who can invest it and build, as well as trying to broaden our approach about what we are trying to do and the partners that we're working with. And so Jimmy Duran just recently joined us about a month ago. He's got a long history working, especially in the Latino community up north here, and I'll let him introduce himself. The one thing I do want to say, we have been more connected with you all, and definitely recognize a number of the names here around the state business grant program, and I will be open about that. The state allocated $200 million to the CDFI network to provide business grants, and we have a very hard deadline. And as you may all have seen, that the legislature is basically, they still had about $1.3 billion of federal CARES Act money, and it sounds like they're all looking to plug their budget gap with that instead of giving it out. I'm going to leave that at that. I don't have any comments about that, other than that's just what's going on. We have been fortunate because the city did step up and allocate $30 million of their CARES Act funding through to sort of support the Philadelphia businesses. So out of roughly 10,000 businesses in Philadelphia that applied, we expect to fund roughly, including the city funding, the state funding, so roughly 3,500 of that. That still leaves, 2/3 of perfectly eligible, perfectly hardworking, perfectly good businesses who won't be able to participate. And so that, unfortunately, is, the good news is hopefully we're going to be able to get that many funded. The bad news is that there's so much more demand. And so that's just sort of wanted to give that context around the grant funding. I don't really have any idea whether there'll be, the state will step up in the future. Probably depends on what happens at the federal level. But, I think that part of what I hope is that because of the collaboration among the 17 CDFIs across the state that focus on business and business finance, that it really helps strengthen our ability as CDFI that works in particular geographies to help make sure we can connect you or any of the businesses or friends or other folks looking for capital to the right place if it's something that we're not able to support. So I know it's been very tough. It's been super tough for a lot of the businesses up a little bit farther north on Allegheny and on Kensington Ave, in our target geography. But so I wanted to let you all know we recognize that, and we're trying to support each of you. I know some of you may have had preliminary commitments and want to get you across the finish line as soon as we can. So that's my sort of prelim about that, and just wanted to turn it over to Jimmy to talk a little bit more about some of the other financing pieces, and I'll be on it if people have other questions about the grant program at the end.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Yes, so I joined Impact Services recently. I come from the SBA lending world prior to joining Impact. And then before that, I was at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. The idea being that with the African American Chamber, the Asian Chamber, and the other chambers that serve the various communities that participate in commerce here locally. The idea is to be, for me, along with others, was to be very intentional about working to build capacity to also reach that level of loan readiness that banks usually expect of businesses to have in order to lend. And that's what I picked up on from that experience of working in those spaces. The gap was too wide for the what was expected of the small business community, the micro business community from the banking system. And so I'm glad to be where I am at Impact, because when you think about a CDFI, community development financial institution, is the perfect combination between financing and lending, but also that supplemental assistance that doesn't come from the corporate banking world. And so the combination of those two things makes sense for the space that we are in. Um, so a couple of examples of some of the things that we are able to do, and I hope that other CDFIs in Fishtown and others in other areas where your audience is doing business at, um, they receive that kind of assistance. Because when it comes to the micro business community, you're looking at someone who is doing sales and marketing, who's doing the operations, who's tracking profitability, who's facing unexpected risks, whether they be internal and external. Taxation, it's a lot. And so a CDFI would consider those things and pick up on some of the gaps when it comes to the paperwork, for example. It's not that we will overlook. It's just that um, you know taking that approach of, you're lacking this, how come? Oh, it's because of that. Okay, I understand that. Let's mitigate that. For example, one of the things that we are doing at Impact is moving forward after working with us. Let's put you on the right track, around loan readiness, for example. And when it comes to accounting or one of those areas that I mentioned, we we are partnering with another let's call it a academic, or so Power Up is offering a very strong curriculum around building capacity. So it makes sense that for the long term, our clients enroll in those kinds of trainings, because we may not be around the second time, meaning, so well, we can find ways of getting you the financial assistance that you need today, after you have been rejected by corporate banks. However, uh, there should be an impact moving forward after having had a relationship with us. And so what we are looking, that impact is looking like for us, is that if your accounting is not to par, or your bookkeeping, or your taxation, or your operations, maybe some of the numbers don't jive, um, and if it's true that it's not a direct reflection of your actual business operations, then let's get you the training that you need moving forward, in order to bring that up to a level of loan readiness that can get you the less expensive financing, the quicker turnaround on your loan application, and so on and so forth, which are great benefits. When you're a business, you want to have the opportunity to access capital, uh, you know, quicker versus taking you a long time, because opportunities come and go. And if it takes you too long to get the capital to take advantage of those opportunities, then there goes your growth, your scaling, and your profitability, and so on and so forth. So I think today I wanted to give an overview of our approach as a CDFI, a little bit about us. As Paul mentioned, we've been around for a very long time, but the Impact Loan Fund, when it comes to businesses, The idea is to support your expansion with working capital, acquisition, purchasing of equipment. Uh, Typically, if you're at zero and you have a dream and you're not really up and running yet, the answer is not um, simply no, we cannot help you. The answer is maybe not yet. Let's get you up and running to a point where we would have some kind of historical background to rely on to determine uh, your debt service capacity moving forward, for example. So there are many, many resources, and the difference, one of the bigger differences with a CDFI is that it's not, we cannot help you go away. It's maybe not now, but let me refer you to this resource. So there are some limitations due to the pandemic at the library, BRIC, the Business Resource Innovation Center. They do great work, but also there are SBDCs throughout the city. There's one at Temple, there's one at Widener, and so on that I'm aware of. And so we're always aware and up to date with the resources that can supplement what it is that you're working on, even if you are a startup. But if you are already up and running and you have historical financials to show, the idea is that it's not just about getting you a loan and then we never see you again. The idea is built around the relationship and the growth of your business for the short and long term. You can certainly contact us, give me a call. If you have a question, if you're in the area that we serve and close enough, certainly let's have a conversation. And even if you're not, still reach out to me. Like I said, it's not always a flat out no. It's always, hey, maybe you're not close enough. However, here's another resource. We do have other partners that we work with. One of those partnerships is the Pro Neighborhood that I became aware of recently, and it makes sense that we work together. CDFIs are a community, um, and our approach is unique when you compare it to the corporate banking world. And so it makes sense that we work together. I get referrals from other CDFIs when the loan package may or may not be may or may not fall exactly in their box, so to speak, and we may do the same. So don't disqualify yourself from reaching out to us, asking any questions you may have. If we can do the loan, we will. If we cannot, we will certainly find ways to help you, either by partnering with another CDFI or another bank even. But the idea is to not turn you away flat out. The idea is to give you some kind of to have an impact, from as a result of you connecting with us. Any of you also, if you're Spanish speaker, I'm bilingual Spanish, and we also have resources and access to other languages. I know that in West Philly, I have been in touch with some of the folks from the Woodland Corridor and some of the African languages. What I was successful at doing was connecting with the city and getting some free resources around communicating with folks in those languages as well. So I think overall, Paul and I share the corporate banking background. I come from the world of working with diverse businesses. I'm a big supporter of women-owned businesses, women entrepreneurship, African American, Hispanic, Asian, the underrepresented groups. When you look at the relationships that those communities have with corporate banks, we're looking to make a difference in that respect. Our loans, some of the businesses that we are involved in, retail, manufacturing, distributors. I also want to talk a little bit about COVID. Some businesses, of course, have been, and are currently, and may continue to be disproportionately impacted negatively by the closures, by policy, by some of the measures that are being taken, and we understand that. What I mean by that is, it's not a flat out, okay, you're a restaurant, you're a caterer, you're an events, business, you're automatically, you won't be able to make the loan payment. We can't move forward. It's not like that. It's more like, let's tell me how will you circumvent this? How will you manage this impact? And what will be the impact? The idea is that you determine what that impact is and how you will mitigate it, how you will manage around it. Perfect example is, we are in the middle of a restaurant, and of course, when the news came out that no more indoor dining, automatically the standard sort of like reaction from a corporate bank would probably be, okay, we can't do the loan. It's over for you. In our case, it's more like, well, tell me how much of your revenue was indoor, and how much of it was delivery, takeout, and moving forward, if indoor was 40% of your revenue, how will you compensate for that loss on the delivery and takeout side? And if the answer is yes, I'm ramping up on my e-commerce sales and marketing, my social media. I'm signing up with Grubhub and DoorDash and Uber Eats and all of that. Then that's a conversation we would want to have, as opposed to, I have no idea how I'm going to get around this. So I mean, that doesn't make anyone comfortable. Whether it's a bank or a CDFI. However, we take the time to ask you those questions, and if the answer is one that we can work on with you, not for you but with you, then it's not a red light. It doesn't become a red light because of COVID. It becomes a yellow light, in terms of, let's have a conversation around how will you mitigate the situation. And if the answer is, this is what I'm going to do, and it makes sense, then the green light to move forward with the loan. And so, background, a little bit about impact and what we're working on right now. I think I've covered. Moving forward, um, Paul and I are always in conversation about, what else is out there in terms of the various segments of the market. Those of you who are in non-traditional market segments, whatever they may be, um, don't feel as though you are not, you're locked out of some of these resources. A lot, before Impact, I was actually working on a few e-commerce businesses where there was no building, there was no brick and mortar, everything was online. Some of the artists, some of you may be an artist on Etsy, for example, or you may have a Shopify account, and that's okay. Right? That's where we are today. So it's so those those traditional businesses who we will continue to work with. However, we are also looking at what today has to offer, which is more e-commerce and more online transactions, where if you don't own the building, and that's not what you want to put up as collateral, we may be able to look at other things that we can use in lieu of that. So, Mark, I think that wanted to give that overview about Impact, myself, Paul, and I, and also what some of the things, what it looked like to work with us, and to sort of like generate maybe curiosity. And if any of you folks have any questions, even if they're not specific to their situation, but general questions. And if they do have a specific question that they want to share with us directly about in private, then certainly I will be sharing. Our contact information is on the screen right now. You can certainly uh, check us out on our website, overall about Impact, but to reach out to us specifically, I can always share that information with you, Mark, and anyone interested in reaching out to me, emailing me directly, they may feel free to do so.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Paul. And I'll start off, and then we'll certainly open it up for questions, because a lot of things are very specific based on who's requesting the financial help. I know, I guess, a big proponent, a lot of what our stakeholders are dealing with is, how do I get through the next several months, because of a pandemic, whether it's bridge loans, things of that nature, to keep their operations going. Does the Impact Loan Fund are you able to work with people on things like that?
I'll talk a little bit about where I think things are now. That back in March, April, May, when the immediate shutdown happened, I think we, like many of the other CDFIs, were really, almost frozen in place, as many businesses were, in the sense that we had no idea what this was, whether this was 3 months, which we had hoped, but turning out to be 6, 9, 12 months of business disruption. And I think it was very difficult to understand what the implications were. And so, we, like many of our other CDFI brethren and some banks, basically with our existing customers sort of said, well, what we can do is we can just basically put a hold or defer payments. And, that may not solve your revenue side, but we can help mitigate the expenses in order for you to survive and be there in the summer or fall to make payments. I guess I would say that now that it's nearly December, clearly there's more clarity of what types of businesses are going to be able to at least manage, what types of businesses have, substantial ongoing challenges, and then what types of businesses might still be, uncertain based on, up or down as far as temporary or permanent closures or limitations of, of number of folks, for instance. And what businesses may have been able to adapt to a Zoom or virtual programming. So I think the answer is yes. We haven't actually had so many folks sort of looking for working capital. I think there are folks talking about, okay, I may have to live with this a lot longer than I thought, and now I need to invest in fit out of of like the business, to create space or temporary exterior closures. I will say, I think that most businesses, and I don't blame them a second, are hoping to look for grant resources or those things that there's so much uncertainty to take on debt going out to the future is a real concern. So I think that we haven't seen a lot of that request. I think we would definitely consider it on a case-by-case basis. And I think that the real question is, if this is a bridge, if this is a bridge through the winter, let's say, to a profitable outcome, once the weather improves and or the vaccine deployment, et cetera. So, and I think those are the kinds of contexts that we would look at around that kind of short-term funding. Generally, we tend to look for longer-term, 3, 5, 7 year, deployments of capital. But certainly we are trying to be as flexible as we can be in this environment, because it's really what needs are out there that we can try to meet.
Got it. Thank you. Let me open it up to our guests today. If anybody has a question, either raise your hand or put it in the chat. Anyone at all? Well, certainly we got a lot of information today, and I know a lot will be specific. If individuals are looking maybe to change locations, whether it's purchase things like that, can the impact loan fund help with that type of thing?
Yeah. If you want to buy another location, or say one thing that I've noticed is that well, one opportunity that exists in terms of growth, and also is strategic, is that if you are a tenant and your business is relying on that one lease agreement, the risk there is that your lease is going to run out. You may be at risk of losing the location, and then the other thing is that you're losing all that opportunity on building equity, if that's something that you're interested in. I like to support businesses that are looking to buy the building, and so we would rely on the performance of the business, and also on the building itself, and look at where you fall in terms of loan to value. But for those of you out there that are looking to secure your spot, right? Your location that you have worked very hard to build, and then you may be at the mercy of a land lord looking to either increase the rent substantially, or you may be insecure around the terms of your lease. Certainly, we have done and will continue to support folks around buying the building, and securing the location that way. That's one way to sort of like expand where you are in terms of your business, and it also reduces your costs. We find that by and large, the mortgage payment is usually less than the rent payment, depending on the terms, right? I'm not, it depends on a case by case basis, but the idea is that we see a substantial savings, and when you decrease a fixed cost, such as rent, then it's a direct impact on your net profitability, and so you see an immediate sort of like benefit from that. So buying the building, also if you want to move from one location to the other, and that move results in you wanting to buy a building somewhere else, then yes, we would look at a loan application about that. Um, if you Paul mentioned working capital, we haven't seen too much of that, but working capital is one where if there's equipment that you want to improve upon, or the working capital may be somewhat general, but not too generic where we don't know where the money's going. The idea is to have some idea of what the use is, right? But it doesn't have to be so specific that you actually have to have every single dollar has to be accounted for. But for the most part, yes. And Paul, I think when it comes to expansion and scaling, moving the business, buying the building, buying equipment to improve operations, and just general maybe reducing costs, I think is a very popular use for some of this money.
Yeah, I mean, and we've done a number of business relocation. I don't want to say it this way because this is a Fishtown business forum, but we, certainly Impact is very active along the commercial corridor in Kensington, and one of the goals that we have, in working closely with Impact Services is to bring business and jobs to Kensington. So when you're opening your second location, north of Lehigh, will be prime for that as well. But yeah, I mean that's I would say are the three primary types of loans we make are sort of a building acquisition for a business purchase, or equipment purchase, and then provide that. I think there are a couple questions in the chat as well.
Yes.
One about timing for the loan. I would say that my short answer is it depends how ready the business is with the level of detail. So if there's financial information and a clear loan request, and we understand what the need is, I would say we are doing loan approvals in 2 to 4 weeks, and if there's no real estate, we can close pretty much within a week after we get the approval, assuming we're not, we can fit the time in. So I think we've had borrowers who have very immediate needs, and they'll go to a Square or PayPal or Stripe and borrow against cash flow through their cash register. I'm not going to say we can compete with that, tomorrow a tomorrow loan, but we do know that when businesses have a need, that they usually have that need, and so we do our best to accommodate their time frame and move as quickly as possible. We're not a large organization, and so we are hoping to limit that bureaucracy and move as quickly as we can.
Great. You
There's
see the
another
next question, Paul?
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to read the next question, or I know it's right in the chat?
Yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, why don't you read it?
Sure. This is from one of our participants. We will be looking for $15,000 to $20,000 to upgrade our HVAC to make indoor activity safer, both in terms of COVID, say in time when a vaccine is largely disseminated, but the virus still circulating to some extent, and regular flus, colds, future viruses. We are a dance studio, and our dance form requires close contact and crowds. I personally own the building that houses the studio. The business does not own it. Is this the kind of thing we could apply for?
I mean, I think that the answer is yes. I think that not sort of fully unwinding that on the call, but I think the question, sort of the first question that I think we or or another lender would try to understand is who's benefiting. Is the HVAC really part of the building owner's responsibility, or is it a fit out for the tenant, so that there's an improvement to the tenant space that might become the business's responsibility, that they would finance against the business, versus the building owner responsibility, where you would look to, you might look to secure the building with collateral. And we have, we've dealt with both, where a business owner says, well, I want to make sure I can get this tenant into the building, and in order to do that, I'm willing to provide X, Y, or Z to accommodate their needs, or manage their needs, or pay for some fit out. And so that we might in that case provide funding to the building owner, or alternately the building owner says, I'm leasing the space, they can do whatever they want, but they need to invest what they need in the building. Those tend to be harder loans, especially I think for bank lenders, because the idea of having the building as collateral is obviously usually preferable. But I think we've certainly done those loans for folks who and then we'll stretch those payments along the term of the lease. So if you have a 1-year lease, that's a pretty quick payback of those expenditures. If your lease is 5 years or 10 years, we would then have the ability to stretch it out a little farther. Usually we would not go beyond what your lease agreement is, because you technically don't have the right to stay after that end. So we need to make sure that any improvements you make are the funds are recouped during that time frame. Not sure if that addressed the entire question.
Great. And that individual is actually going to be in touch. Any other questions? I see my good friend Ravi on there. Ravi is always good for a question or two. Don't feel obligated, Ravi.
I could ask you, the problem is getting me to stop. I guess, can you help define, you say equipment? What do you mean by equipment? Is that HVAC? Is that an ice maker? Is that, electrical panels? You know, maybe you already answered that. I came in late. I apologize.
I think, yeah, that's a very good question, actually. It depends. For example, for a restaurant, and if we're lending to the restaurant, not the landlord in the using the last scenario, then equipment would be like a steam table or a refrigeration. However, um, if part of your say lease agreement is that HVAC is something that is on you and you rely on, and and sort of like it's part of your business, it's confined to the space that you occupy as the business, then considering that circumstance, we may consider the HVAC as equipment that is part of your operations, right? It depends on, but when it's clearly part of your operations, such as refrigeration or things like that, then yeah. In the case of a hair salon, for example, so like the dryers and all these things, those are direct. That's equipment directly related to the operations of the business. But if the lease agreement calls for another type of equipment that you're responsible for and you need it for your business, then yeah, the idea is that there is flexibility in terms of how we look at things, and if they fit, uh, a little bit outside of what traditionally, corporate banks say, well, that is and that isn't. In our case, it's like, okay, so, the standard approach to that is that it wouldn't. However, because of your situation, exactly, because of your situation, we can consider it.
Or it's like whether it's a, a, a business leasehold improvement or some sort of infrastructural utility thing. It's like, it's got to be categorized, I guess, and whether it's on the building owner or the business. I guess another question I would ask would be, you might have answered this already, again, I apologize, is, obviously it's most ideal to have physical collateral in the picture, like property. And cash flow I own a bar, so my cash flow is shit right now.
He meant poor.
I'm brick rich and cash poor. I guess, are these loans, are you have like bank lenders that you work with, or investment funder guys that you work with, or do you do like SBA loans, and do you do construction loans or upgrade loans? Like, I don't know how you categorize these things.
The answer is mostly yes. We are not an SBA lender, but Impact Loan Fund has its own capital, raises capital from banks, from the federal government, from city, state, different sources that provide capital that we then lend. We also work with those lenders that you referenced and other CDFIs. So, if a particular request, is too large, too small, doesn't quite fit, is startup, whatever, that will, our goal is to try to help you, find the right fit if we're not it.
Right.
But we definitely will fund construction period loans for fit out or bringing a bit building up, like and I'm going to acquire a new building, but I need to renovate before I can occupy or relocate my business, for instance. The one thing I would just add around the equipment question that you added, I mean, the typical equipment loan that that there are probably two. One is my equipment's about to break and I need to replace it, or else that impacts my business, and that may not be a preferred investment, but a necessary one. But the second one, which is almost always what I feel like we see, is if I buy this new machine, it will increase my efficiency, either so I can produce more widgets, or
Yeah.
I might be able to reduce my payroll costs. Right, I've got two people doing something manually 8 hours a day. If I get this machine, then I need one person to do something 4 hours a day, and and then that other person can go do other things or grow the business. So typically when we're getting the equipment loan, it's I'm adding I'm adding a refrigerator case to the front of my store, so I'll sell 30% more drinks, cold drinks for out of the store. So we're making that connection between the investment in equipment and the increase in revenue or decrease in cost that basically help pay for the cost of that.
How does this?
Other equipment we've done or had requests for include like dump truck, construction companies investing in that, or dump trucks, or a delivery vehicle, or those kind of things. So depending, as you're trying to figure out how to pivot or find ways to do that, there are some potential requests that says, if I could do this, if I can deliver this, then I can I can generate additional cash flow both now and in the future.
Are you willing to take secondary and or tertiary positions on collateral?
We have. I would say it always depends. Unfortunately, it's always the answer. It depends, right? What the circumstances are, what the what the situation is, and so that for those of you who are sort of familiar with the lender talk, there's cash flow, collateral, character, those kind of factors that are taken into account around the specific loan. But we have certainly taken subordinate lien position. We've done unsecured loans, and I do say it depends. We maybe to our disadvantage, we custom we're custom for the loan. So trying to figure out what your needs are and how we can get comfortable with meeting those needs.
There you go. That was good for you, Robbie. That was only like 3 questions. Is there any other questions before we let these fine gentlemen go? Seeing none. By the way, Jimmy and Paul, do you have you can post your contact information again so people can reach out to you directly, or if you
Yeah, I'll put it on the chat.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here today, and certainly I would recommend reaching out to these fine gentlemen so that you can get your specific questions answered. But they are wonderful partners and very, very helpful in helping you find the solution you need for whatever your needs are coming up. So I want to thank Paul and Jimmy for your time again today, and for everybody being on this. And as always, we will be posting the video of this on our social media platforms at the Fishtown District, as well as posting that and sending that out in our weekly email blast, which will be next Wednesday due to the Thanksgiving holiday. And we look forward to doing this again. So Jimmy and Paul, thank you for your time, your help, and your guidance. And we look forward to our continued good work together.
Anytime.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us.
Have a great day, everyone. Have a great weekend.